March 2023. A man traveling under a false identity is stopped at an airport in Montenegro. Within minutes, the illusion shatters. The man is Do Kwon, once one of the most powerful figures in crypto, now a fugitive. His arrest wasn't random. It was the consequence of a financial catastrophe that had already shaken the entire digital economy. Just months earlier, Kwon's creation, the Terra ecosystem, had collapsed in spectacular fashion. At the center of it all was an idea that seemed revolutionary, a stable digital dollar that didn't need banks. But when Terra USD lost its $1 peg, the system designed to stabilize it did the opposite. Its sister token, Luna, was printed in massive quantities to save the system, but instead, it triggered a death spiral. Billions vanished in days. Confidence evaporated. And what followed wasn't just a crash, it was contagion. The fallout spread fast. Crypto lenders collapsed. Hedge funds imploded. Liquidity dried up across the market. What began as one failed experiment became one of the defining moments of the cryptocurrency crash of 2022. And then came the domino effect. As trust in crypto shattered, the NFT boom, once driven by speculation and hype, began to unravel. Prices plunged. Trading volumes collapsed. Projects disappeared overnight. What was once seen as the future of digital ownership suddenly looked like a bubble that had burst. By the time authorities caught up to Do Kwon, the damage was already done. His arrest didn't cause the collapse, it confirmed it. It started quietly. In 2017, a small experiment on the Ethereum network introduced the idea that digital items could be owned, not copied, not shared, but truly owned. That experiment was called CryptoKitties. At first, it was just cartoon cats, but the idea behind them, non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, was bigger than anyone realized. NFTs are unique digital tokens stored on a blockchain, which serve as proof of ownership for a specific digital item, whether it be a piece of art, a song, a video, or even virtual real estate. Their appeal is largely driven by their perceived scarcity and uniqueness. Unlike traditional digital files, which can be easily copied and shared, NFTs promise verifiable ownership of a digital asset through blockchain technology. Fast forward a few years, and the world had changed. Artists, musicians, and creators began minting digital assets, each one unique, each one stored on the blockchain. Ownership became programmable, scarcity became digital. And then, the explosion. Platforms like OpenSea, Rarible, and Foundation became the new auction houses of the internet. Collections like Bored Ape Yacht Club and CryptoPunks turned profile pictures into status symbols. And then came the moment that made the world pay attention. In March 2021, digital artist People sold an NFT artwork at Christie's for $69 million. Suddenly, this wasn't niche anymore. This was global. Celebrities rushed in, athletes, musicians, influencers, everyone wanted a piece. Prices skyrocketed. People flipped JPEGs for life-changing money. Discord servers turned into trading floors. Twitter became a battlefield of hype. For a moment, it felt like the internet had discovered a new kind of wealth. But beneath the surface, the entire system was being fueled by something fragile: liquidity, speculation, and a belief that prices would only go up. But just as fast as it rose, it began to fall. The numbers tell the story. In 2022, NFT trading volume peaked at over $26 billion. Just a year later, it was cut in half, dropping to $11.8 billion. The average NFT price followed the same path, from highs of around $1,500 in early 2021 down to just $600 by mid-2022. Even the untouchables weren't spared. Collections like Bored Ape Yacht Club, once symbols of digital wealth, saw their floor prices collapse by more than 90%. Assets that once sold for millions were now worth a fraction of that. And the marketplaces? OpenSea, once the beating heart of the NFT economy, saw daily trading volumes fall to just $5 million in 2023. The frenzy was gone. The buyers disappeared. The liquidity dried up. What was once a roaring marketplace became eerily quiet. This wasn't just a dip. It was a collapse, triggered by a perfect storm of speculation, overvaluation, and a much deeper fracture forming within the crypto ecosystem itself. One of the biggest cracks in the system was saturation. At the height of the boom, everyone wanted in. Platforms like OpenSea were flooded daily with new collections, thousands at a time. Not all of them had value. Many projects had no clear purpose, no utility, no long-term vision, just hype, and the hope that someone else would pay more. Copycats multiplied, low-effort collections dominated. The market became oversaturated with digital assets that looked different, but offered nothing new. As the broader crypto market began to unravel in 2022, the impact on NFTs was immediate and severe. The collapse of major projects, most notably the Terra ecosystem, and the downfall of FTX wiped out billions in value and shattered investor confidence across the entire digital asset space. What had once felt like an unstoppable financial revolution suddenly looked fragile. As cryptocurrency prices plunged, so did the purchasing power of investors, leaving far less capital available to flow into speculative assets like NFTs. Demand dried up quickly, and with it, the momentum that had fueled the boom. NFTs, which thrived on liquidity and optimism, began to suffocate in a market dominated by fear and uncertainty. At the same time, a growing wave of scandals further accelerated the decline. High-profile NFT projects, often backed by celebrities, began to reveal a troubling pattern: massive promises followed by little to no delivery. Figures like Tai Lopez launched expensive NFT collections, such as the OG Social Club, offering exclusive perks that quickly lost traction. Boxing icon Floyd Mayweather Jr. promoted the Mayweathers, which promised rewards and immersive experiences but soon went silent, leaving investors with unanswered questions. Perhaps most notorious was Logan Paul's Crypto Zoo project, marketed as a play-to-earn game, but ultimately delivering little more than unfulfilled expectations and financial losses for its users. Investigations, including a widely viewed exposé by CoffeeZilla, uncovered allegations of mismanagement, unpaid developers, and questionable financial practices involving key figures behind the project. As these stories piled up, public perception shifted dramatically. What was once seen as an innovative frontier of digital ownership increasingly became associated with hype, exploitation, and broken promises. Trust eroded, skepticism grew, and for many, NFTs stopped representing opportunity and started signaling risk. The market didn't just decline in value, it lost credibility, and that loss proved far more difficult to recover from. As the dust began to settle, a new layer of internet culture started to shape how people viewed the future. Prediction markets, platforms like Polymarket turned speculation itself into a tradable asset, allowing users to bet on real-world outcomes, including the fate of NFTs. By 2026, bettors on the platform had pushed the odds of an NFT resurgence to 65%, the highest level ever recorded, signaling a noticeable shift in sentiment. After years of decline, there were early signs that the sector might not be finished. The NFT market cap, which had been in steady decline throughout 2025, managed to hold above $3 billion as 2026 began, driven largely by so-called blue-chip collections like CryptoPunks, Bored Ape Yacht Club, and Pudgy Penguins. At the same time, trading activity showed signs of life, with volumes rising by over 20% in short bursts, hinting at renewed interest, though still far from the frenzy of previous years. Yet, beneath this cautious optimism, the scars of the crash were still visible. Major platforms and players had already retreated. OpenSea, once dominant, had lost much of its cultural relevance, with delayed token launches drawing criticism from users. Competitors like X2Y2 had shut down their NFT operations entirely, pivoting to other areas like DeFi after citing a 90% market decline. Even large corporations stepped back. Nike, which had aggressively entered the space through its RTFKT venture, ultimately pulled out after a year of inactivity. Events that once symbolized the industry's momentum, like NFT Paris, were cancelled, with organizers directly pointing to market conditions. Today, people still buy NFTs, but the mindset has shifted dramatically from speculation to utility. The era of buying digital assets purely to flip for profit has largely faded, replaced by a more grounded approach where buyers look for NFTs that provide real world or digital value. Gaming has emerged as one of the strongest use cases, where NFTs function as in game assets, unique characters, weapons, or skins that players can truly own and sometimes use across multiple platforms. At the same time, legacy collections like CryptoPunks and Bored Ape Yacht Club still attract interest, though now they are viewed less as speculative assets and more as digital status symbols or cultural artifacts. Another area of continued relevance is membership and access. NFTs are increasingly being used as digital passes, granting holders entry to exclusive communities, events, or services. This extends into identity and verification, where organizations experiment with NFT based tickets, credentials, and access control systems to reduce fraud and improve transparency. In parallel, real-world asset tokenization is gaining traction, allowing physical items like art or collectibles to be represented digitally and even fractionally owned. Major brands have also explored this space. Companies like Nike and Starbucks have used NFTs in loyalty programs, offering rewards, exclusive content, and limited digital merchandise to customers. The technology is also being tested in professional and creative industries. Educational institutions are exploring NFTs for storing and verifying degrees and certifications, while artists and musicians are using them to sell content, rights, and experiences directly to fans without relying on traditional intermediaries. These developments suggest that NFTs are slowly evolving beyond simple digital art into tools for ownership, verification, and distribution across multiple sectors. However, skepticism remains strong. Discussions on platforms like Reddit reveal a divided perspective. Some users see clear potential in areas like ticketing, identity systems, and supply chain tracking, while others argue that traditional databases can achieve the same outcomes more efficiently. Security is another persistent concern, with wallet hacks and scams still fresh in people's minds. Even with real-world implementations, such as blockchain-based ticketing systems that have processed millions of tickets, widespread adoption is far from guaranteed. Ultimately, the NFT space today is more mature, but also more cautious. The hype has been replaced by scrutiny, and success now depends on delivering genuine utility rather than chasing trends. While the future of NFTs remains uncertain, most signs point toward a more focused evolution, one where only projects that solve real problems and build trust will survive.